Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Majlis dimulakan pada petang ini dengan bacaan umul kitab Al-Fatihah bagi yang beragama Islam dan bagi yang bukan beragama Islam dengan kepercayaan.
Petikan bila Ambassador of China to United Nations was asked, I think immediately one day after Trump announced the list of tarif tu kan, reporter tanya dia, what's your take on Trump punya ni? Are you worried? Kata-kata dia was like quite interesting. Dia kata, well, we are not worried. We are not worried at all. What America do, America do. We are more worried about what we can do. We are more worried about what we will do. We are not worried about what they do. Okay. Now, why I start from there? Kita di sini, and I've said this many times in many forum, and I think kita di sini bukan by accident. Okay, it was policies and decision that was made since independence. Bukan salah atau betul, tapi kita adalah product of our history. Okay, so look at Malaysia. Kita in 1957, MIDA ditubuhkan. Kita start with agrarian nation. Kita agriculture, kita tin, kita rubber. And we that was our source of funds daripada independence. And then our forefathers, our previous leaders realized that we need to industrialize. We tak boleh bergantung pada just agriculture and minerals, so kita kena industrial. So MIDA ditubuhkan around in the late 1960s. Okay, 1960s. MIDA ditubuhkan. MIDA is Malaysia Industrial Development Authority. Okay, kita nak industrialize. Apa kita buat? To industrialize, jalan cepat, jalan mudah is to encourage investment. So we went all around the world, encourage investment, kasih all kinds of incentives, get more people to invest. Ingat tak masa zaman I was small, cerita pasal a lot of electronic kilang sprouting everywhere. Okay, orang kampung semua keluar kerja kat kilang, ramai. Okay, buat aircon, buat peti sejuk, and so on and so forth. Okay, so kita industrialize. And then bayangkanlah, I would imagine, okay, I don't have the numbers, but I would imagine back in 1957, probably kita punya local players, less than 100,000 companies. Okay, 25 years later, after MIDA, Matrix ditubuhkan. Okay, by that time, kita dah ada almost like 500,000, 700,000 companies, local. Sebab tu kita nak export. Kita dah mula ada company, kita nak export. Okay, so policy export ditubuhkan, kita dah fikir tentang macam mana kita nak mengeluar dan cari pasaran-pasaran baru. Interestingly enough, a few years back, MIDA tukar nama kepada Malaysia Investment Development Authority. Kita tak nak industrialize lagi dah. Kita nak jadi investment center. Promote investment. Now, this is a scary bit. Bila kita lihat pergerakan global sekarang ni, daripada Bretton Woods kepada neoliberals to Mr. Trump sekarang ni, what he's doing? He's trying to bring back industry. He's trying to bring back manufacturing, right? And who is going to be impacted first? Those developing nation yang mana rely on investment to bring the investment in to do manufacturing, because that's the easy trade to come in. Okay, so it's not surprising. I mean, you see, that's why I said it's a red herring. When you look at that table, kan, the way the table is worked is purely by looking at trade differences. And that doesn't make any sense. Okay, kalau you want to really look at real meaningful thing, you look at what exactly are you making and what are the industry that I want to negotiate. But no, I'm just looking at all your trade imbalance. What do you expect a country like Cambodia to trade with you? Of course, they bring all grains, all the little things, all the minerals, and then you nak negotiate apa? Okay, so it's not surprising that you look at that list, the top 5 of people in that list are all developing nations. Okay, tak kisahlah. It so happened that between China and India, ASEAN is the hub for all the developing nations. So it's not surprising to find that, that list of all up there are all developing nations, okay? Because the target is, I want to bring back the industry. I want to bring back the manufacturing, which China, the rest of the world, the European, the oligarchs are putting in developing nation because they are cheap, low labor, cheap labor, easy access, great incentive. We are partly responsible for creating the problem, okay? So I've been saying this all along. Look, kenapa kita incentivize a lot of foreign? Don't get me wrong, okay? Investment is important. It's a shortcut for us to jump. We need that, okay? But not to the point where we over-rely on investment for our capacity. And this is where I agree dengan what Tan Sri was saying earlier. Kita ni, I spent 20 years in my life in the oil and gas industry. Okay, kita punya industri oil and gas ni lebih daripada 100 tahun. Bayangkan. Okay, and kalau orang cakap pasal oil and gas ni, orang akan compare dengan Norway. Norway start around 1970s, okay, 1965, 70s, thereabout. Okay, kita ada 40 tahun lebih tua daripada Norway. Tapi, where is Norway and where are we? When Norway started, dia cuma ada agriculture and marine. Okay, dia tangkap ikan, dia bina kapal and whatnot. So they use all of that to develop the oil and gas. 50 years later, they are net exporter of equipment. They are developers of high-end technology for oil and gas. Kita selepas 100 tahun, more than 90% of our equipment are still imported. What happened? Because kita ni laissez-faire, kita ni relax lah, senang, ambil mudah. Policy kita tidak melihat kepada susah sekarang, build the capacity, compete with the world. That needs to change. That needs to change. We need to really look at our capabilities. And I agree. I've been in Madrid, when I look at Madrid and we look at the biggest thing that kita champion every time is halal industry. Okay? Look, I think it's great. It's great. Kita ada one of the biggest segment that we should take advantage of. Tapi kita punya halal industry is over dependent on FMCG, which is makanan. But halal industry, financial, kita pelopor Islamic finance. Tapi, unsadly, Singapore punya Islamic finance is bigger than us. Pharmaceuticals, a lot of value-add industry in the halal industry that is so much that we can do. But unfortunately, we are not there. So, Tok saya kata oil and gas. The same story with palm oil. The same story with rubber. The same story. And we can continue with the list. Where is the value development? So, apakah cadangan kita untuk kehadapan? Pada saya, dengan pergerakan yang kita nampak sekarang ni, the whole global economy becoming more protectionist. Okay, more protectionist. Because America nak jaga, make America great again. Kita nak jadi. Europe dah mula kata, okay, America nak abandon us, we will make Europe great. Okay, now China kata, look, we're going to be looking at the world, Belt and Road and everything. ASEAN perlu bersatu, tapi kita kena realize as well. Kita kena realize. You see, one of the norm that you will see, hukum alam lah. Kalau kita melihat pada air yang berjalan dengan tenang, dia tenang dan dia punya layering is very clear. Tapi bila air berkelodak, dia berkacau tu. Nak dapat jernih itu susah. Okay, in a developing economy where everybody is fighting to find a common turf, it's very difficult. Bukan tak boleh, it's difficult. Okay, so and that is where ASEAN is. Everybody is fighting for their own interest. Bukanlah kita tak nak bersama dengan ASEAN. Kita patut, kita harus, tapi kita kena understand the reality. Kita kena understand the reality. Okay, because kalau tak, kita masih lagi mimpikan, suasana yang indah Hey, it's not forthcoming. They are not ready. Put it that way. It's not ready. Okay. So the implication is big. The implication of this tariff is huge. Huge. Okay, I'm not going to underestimate it. It's huge because the implication is suddenly cost of everything is going to go up. Okay, because semua industri berkait. Because that happened because for the last 70 years, daripada zaman, World War II sampai sekarang, we have been developing pluralistic, multi-market approach. And America has been doing that. Unfortunately, now we have a president who suddenly says, no, we don't want to play the game anymore. And that is a huge change. Okay? It's like COVID. Unfortunately, it's that. The reality is this. We want to be industrial nation, and the whole pretext is comparative advantage. Okay, this whole economic ideas of comparative advantage. You bagus buat ni, you buat. I buat. And kita sama-sama gabung tenaga, kita boleh buat satu kereta yang harga lebih murah daripada kalau semua orang nak buat kereta masing-masing. Good. But, okay, that will happen if everybody plays the game. Right? So sekarang ni, when everybody forced dengan COVID, suddenly, logistically tak boleh. Kita kena ada kita punya industry value chain for us to produce. Dah everybody wants to be bringing in their industry back. Okay? And okay lah, we survived COVID. Now we have Trump. And Trump now create the same impact of everybody onshoring the technology. Kalau kita masih lagi nak produce halal industry based on food, believe me, barang-barang makanan, 2/3 of it we are importing. Kita tak produce. We import daripada Indonesia, we import daripada Thailand, we import daripada Vietnam. These are basic ingredients. How on earth kita ni 34 million population. Okay, we are at least, minus Singapore and Brunei, we are at least 2 to 5 times smaller, or 2 to 10 times smaller than our neighbors by population. Okay, so they have cheaper labor, they have more ingredients. There's no way we can compete. We need to look at value add. There's no way we can compete. I mean, that's the bleak reality. Selagi kita tak bangun sekarang, realize the fallacies of hoping that there's a big investor who's going to come here and help us. I'm paranoid in that sense that I think it's high time we get up and say, hey, put a right policy in, encourage the development of kita punya old global champions. Okay, I'm sure everybody knows. In the 70s, the Asian tiger. Korea was just like us, economy sama. Tapi how come Korea ada Hyundai, ada Samsung, ada all the big players? Kita masih lagi tak ada. What's happening? Okay, so it's time to wake up. It's time to realize that bukan kita bukan tak cukup talents. Okay, one of the great things that we did since independence was to invest on talents. We have huge talents, but unfortunately, kalau kita tak generate high technology industry, these talents will run away, and we cry about talent bleed, and so on. Ridiculous, because policy daripada atas kena betul sampai ke bawah. Kalau tak, dia takkan jadi. That's my thought. Thank you.
Silakan, Dr. Sofian.
Okay, I just like to share. When the tariff executive order came out, I had a look into the real reason why the US actually charged us the 24%. It's not about the real tariff. They have 12 concerns about Malaysia's trade and investment policy. One, which we have nothing to do with us, is high excise tax on distilled spirits. This is alcohol policy, which I think is non-negotiable. Automotive policy. We all know that we are protecting Proton, which is now Geely, and Perodua, which is now Toyota. I mean, we pretend that we own these companies, but they are not ours. And we are still protecting them. So that's one of the complaints. Automotive policy, AP policy, electric vehicles, where we require all electric vehicles made or assembled in Malaysia. You mentioned about halal, that's another complaint, because they're saying that JAKIM's halal standard is much higher than the rest of the halal standards imposed by other Muslim countries, including our restrictions of importing live poultry from the US. Government procurement, this has been discussed in the TPP negotiation. They are mentioning about some restrictions on some components of government procurement where we require Bumiputra participation. Pharmaceutical procurement, this relates to the distribution right of Pharmaniaga. IP protection, again another TPP issue which leads to the counterfeit goods and also the digital IP on digital items. Services, they are looking into banking license. Basically, what they are trying to say indirectly is they want their banks to have more presence in Malaysia and the right to establish branches. And then there's a restriction on equity and reinsurance license. The next one is cabotage policy, which relates to the earlier government's policy on undersea cable. This is like they are saying, look, it's their cable, why do we need to ask a Malaysian company to do the undersea internet cable? Broadcast and screen quota, they are saying that in Malaysia, during prime time, foreign programming are not allowed to be broadcast. So you ask Nazri, he's part of broadcasting. And then domain DNS. Domain DNS, this links to the internet, where is Malaysia directed internet service providers in Malaysia to redirect all DNS traffic to local DNS services, preventing anyone in Malaysia from using a non-Malaysian DNS resolver service. Investment policy, where we have equity limitation on certain services sector. I agree that sometimes you have problems at the implementation level, which cause issues for foreign investors. We are good at attracting investment, but we are not that good in investment facilitation and investment implementation, especially not at the federal level, but at the ground level. Export subsidies. So these are the 12 areas of concerns. But I think there are also non-written concerns, which is geopolitics. Maybe somehow or other, if we go and negotiate, they will probably ask us, how about Gaza? How about NVIDIA chips? We read in the news that someone took the chips. Nowadays, chips are very small, 8 nanometer, very small. You can put in your glasses and then carry them, smuggle. It's much better to smuggle chips than smuggle drugs nowadays. It brings a lot more money. So that's another potential unwritten complaint. And I think these are 2 or 3 issues which are linked to Malaysia's strategic trade, which we may have to look into in terms of negotiation strategy. Because the Prime Minister said we are going to negotiate with the US. If we are going to negotiate with the US, we are not going to address the tariff because our tariff is very low, 5.6%. But we have to address these 12 issues plus be prepared of the unwritten concerns, especially on Gaza. So we must be able to provide the answer on our foreign policy on certain issues. So those are my explanation of behind the numbers. Thank you.
Menarik, satu perspektif lain mungkin open eyes us untuk kita dengar daripada Prof. Dr. Sofian. Ya, bila kita go to negotiation, apa kita boleh offer pada dia? The return yang akan diberi kepada US. Betul. Jadi Tan Sri, sebelum kita buka diam tak diam hampir 2 jam juga kita dah sesi kita. Menarik, kalau topik menarik kita tak sedar. Tan Sri, mungkin apa yang kita perlu buat ni Apa kita boleh buat? Ada ramai kata orang media ni PM lambat bagi statement pada Malaysia berbanding Lawrence Wong sebelah selatan tu hari kedua dah bagi statement. Kita perlu bersedia, rakyat perlu bersedia. Sin Leong pun bercakap, semua menteri dia cakap Malaysia baru semalam lambat. Jadi MITI pun hari ini baru komprehensif tindakan-tindakan tarif yang diberikan oleh daripada Menteri Tengku Zafrul. Jadi tapi untuk sesi ini apa yang kita boleh buat? Tuan Sri, silakan.
Terima kasih. Ya, kita pun nak dengar daripada partisipan setiap pandangan you all kan. Bagi saya beginilah. Ini kita berhadapan dengan negara yang sangat-sangat besar dan juga dominan mereka dalam pelbagai konteks. We must space cukup ruang untuk kita melihat perkara ini sebagai satu cabaran dan peluang untuk kita buat perubahan. Because kita di Malaysia ni, saya dan banyaklah yang duduk sini terlibat, we been saying all along bahawa Malaysia ini kita alhamdulillah sebuah negara yang umumnya berjaya, tetapi kita ada masalah yang besar, terutama dalam konteks perubahan struktur ekonomi kita. Tadi Tin Syarin pun sebenarnya benda yang sama. Saya dah tunjuk yang ni. Kalau kita tengok apa yang kita ekspor ke Amerika, banyaknya hijau, maksudnya kompleks. Yang saya tak tunjuk adalah this one. Ini semua negara yang kita ekspor. Then you start to see a lot more browns and yellows kan. Maksudnya ialah maybe only half of the product yang kita ekspor tu dia anggap kompleks. Kita lancarkan NIMP 2030. Saya terlibat, saya dalam task force itu, saya ada masa pelancaran. Tapi sayangnya selepas pelancaran kita tidak gema-gemakan, war-warkan ini. You can Google now. NIMP 2030 first mission apa dia? First mission ni. Saya ingat kau tanya Putrajaya pun banyak tak tahu. First mission ialah to increase our complexity. Maksudnya nak jadikan semua ni hijau. Maksud complexity ialah apa yang kita hasilkan dalam industri kita ialah menggunakan teknologi, menggunakan all the latest knowledge, state of the art dan sebagainya. When you produce complex product, people got no other option than buying it from you. Mahal pun kena beli. Kalau nak beli kapal terbang ada apa? Boeing? Ada dua aja. Malah nak beli Coca-Cola pun, nak beli cola pun ada apa? Coca-Cola, Pepsi Cola aja. Dua aja. Jadi, we have to invest in complexity. We have to really, saya minta maaf, mungkin kita pun dah basi dengar ni. Sebab kalau Dr. Anung ada kat sini, dia akan cerita, what are you talking about complexity? All of our students are having bad grades. Tak berminat dalam sains dan teknologi. Kita bercakap tentang STEM ni berapi-rapi. PM baru ni cakap kata, berapa peratus mesti dalam STEM. Jadi, nak buat kompleks, kena ada good talents. Kena ada good ecosystem. Tadi Prof. Sofian cakap tentang ecosystem of IPR dan sebagainya, intellectual property rights. Di Malaysia, 98% daripada syarikat berdaftar adalah SMEs. Maybe 70-80% daripada itu adalah micro. You know what is micro? Micro ni maksudnya ada kedai jahit 2 orang, 3 orang, itu micro lah. Jadi, yang kita duk dengar berbunga-bunga yang duk ekspor ni tadi, you agak-agak ni siapa yang ekspor ni? American company staying in Malaysia. Bukan kita. Not our technologies. Adalah 2-3 yang betul. Saya ingat masa COVID, I was there struggling dekat EAC. Apple called me up and said that there are 19 companies that product goes inside here. That's why masa tu iPhone tak boleh keluar sebab Malaysia decide nak tutup kilang. SMEs hanya contribute lebih kurang dalam not more than 12% of Malaysia's export. Tadi saya mula dengan apa? Mula dengan mengatakan Malaysia bergantung kepada ekspor. Tetapi yang SME yang ekspor itu bagaimana? Tak ada. Dan 40-50% rakyat Malaysia bekerja dengan SME. Kalau kita tengok dalam skill, kemahiran pekerja di Malaysia, 29% saja. Tiap-tiap tahun kita keluar graduate daripada termasuk universiti yang hebat ni 300,000 yang kita can count lah. Daripada all universities. 300,000 ada graduate. Jobs created yang memerlukan graduate agak-agak berapa? Not more than 40,000. 300,000 produce, 40,000 jobs is there. So another 260 nak pergi mana? 260 turun ke bawah. Yang tak ada degree. Yang tak ada degree nak pergi ke mana? Turun ke bawah, minta maaf, jumpa Bangla dengan all the foreign workers. And we are still bringing a lot more foreign workers. Because why? Because we are stuck trying to be a cheap economy. Saya dah cakap ni 10 kali dah. Malaysia, bukan saja kerajaan lah, semua kita pun mungkin addicted to these cheap things. Murah is good for us. So therefore, we are in trouble. Now, so this is a wake-up call. Tak apalah, cerita Trump, betul tak betul, tu cerita tepi. But how about kalau kita tackle isu tadi dengan sepenuhnya? How about kita angkat macam Syahrin kata tadi, that we need to have our own local indigenous, maksudnya negara asli daripada Malaysia yang menghasilkan produk-produk ini. Kejayaan kita ialah FDI. FDI maksudnya bukan kita punya. Kita jarang bercakap kejayaan kita DDI, Domestic Direct Investment. Ada beberapa, saya dah melawat sendiri, ada. Tetapi kita jarang bercakap tentang mereka. Kejayaan kita ialah bawa pelaburan. Sehingga kita kadang-kadang, saya tahu, minta maaf lah kalau ada kawan-kawan Maida sini, banyak dia kata, no, we are paying a lot of attention on DDI. But still, you go to the SME sector, they will say something else. Talent ada masalah, firma ada masalah, kerajaan tak apalah, saya tak komen, pun ada masalah sendiri. You know, I mean, this is a wake-up call for Malaysia. Bagi saya lah, bila mana ada bencana ekonomi begini, lebih baik kita fikirkan apa perubahan yang kita boleh buat. Dan saya nak menganjurkan satu kepada kerajaan. Prof. Sofian sebut tadi ada 12 yang clearly identify. These are the area. You know what actually Prof. Sofian raised tadi? Itulah yang menyumbang kepada lebih kurang 20% yang ditambah tu. Yang jadi bukan 20. Yang menjadi 40%, 47% tu. Kita punya tarif 5%, 3-5% begitu je. Saya dah tengok dah. Most tarif ni, kalau negara-negara CLMV tu, tarif dia rendah je. Yang menokok, yang Amerika tokok itu adalah apa yang Prof. Sofian cakap tadi. Dan kemungkinan yang kita tak berani nak sebut di sini secara hakiki, bahawa ada other geopolitical agenda juga. Maybe please shut up your mouth about Gaza, for example. Wallahualam, I don't want to say that lah. Cumanya kemungkinan ada. Jadi berarti, how about untuk 12 sektor tadi, bagi saya lah, sebenarnya the idea of clearing non-tarif ataupun dalam bahasa ekonomi juga kita panggil behind the border. Selepas kena tarif dekat border, behind the border, all the syarat-syarat ni. How about kita form pasukan-pasukan yang khusus, tell America, we will look into this. Because why? Some of them actually are the problem for us as well. Some of them, we thought is good. Tadi infant industry argument, dulu masa zaman Proton. Saya dah cakap baru-baru ni. Sebenarnya harga kereta murah aja. That's why pelajar Malaysia pergi UK bawa balik Mercedes. Kita yang letakkan cukai jadi tinggi. Cakap tentang cost of living. Bertahun-tahun dah. Apa dia cost of living? Dua benda saja kalau dapat selesai ni. Turun cost of living hari ni. Bukan makan minum. Makan minum ni your stomach ada limit. You tak boleh eat more than 3 plates of biryani. Trust me. You turunkan harga rumah. Dan satu lagi apa dia? Kereta. Ini adalah expenditure tetap dalam bajet seluruh rakyat Malaysia. Kereta dan rumah. Kalau kita boleh address kereta, after all, there's no more Proton anyway.
It's not ours anymore.
Nak protect apa? Minta maaf lah. I mean, maybe ada more complication. Tapi bagi saya lah. Dan for no reason, kita yang rakyat semualah yang menanggung beban. Nak bayar kereta, saya dengar tadi, bayar kereta yang murah pun harga 40,000. Harga kereta tu agaknya betul-betul mungkin 12,000 je. That's why you go outside. I know I live abroad very long. Many of you have been abroad. Kereta di luar negara sangat murah. Di Malaysia mahal. How about? Jadi untuk setiap 12 itu, tubuhkan pasukan. Attend betul-betul. To make sure that we go to the limit yang possible. Even if it is for Bumi Putra, janganlah kita blanket. Bumi Putra tahan. Bumi-putera mean competition, tak boleh masuk. No, you need some competition to excel. Sampai bila? Jadi, yes, you must pastikan Bumi-putera itu berjaya, but you have to berjaya secara genuine, able to compete in the global market. Jadi begitulah, bagi saya lah, saya harap perbincangan hari ini, saya percaya banyak lagi yang kita tak sentuh, that it also give us an opportunity to look di mana kita boleh perbetulkan ekonomi negara kita. Sebab at the true situation ialah even without this reciprocal tariff, we already been reading a lot of report and material sebagainya telling that we have problems in our own country. Maybe this is the time for us untuk address masalah-masalah ini dan kemudiannya kita berjaya. Kalau Trump risau rakyat dia tak ada pekerjaan sebab semua dia luar, kita tak risau ke? Semua foreigner bawa masuk sini, rakyat kita tak ada pekerjaan. I mean, this is real. And what we bring is not talents. We bring cheap labor. Because we are addicted to cheap. Thank you.
Silakan, Prof.
Just a short one. I think we are here in the university, so we have to look into what the university can do to address this problem. I think the biggest problem is not the tariff. The tariff will come and go. When Trump goes, I think the problem will go. But the structural problem of the country, we have to solve the problem. And I seriously think that the KPT, now they are in the process of finalizing the blueprint for higher education. They need to have a real look into this. How do we position universities to support the national development? How do we position the universities to create the right amount and the right type of talents for the next 20, 30 years? So that we are not dependent. If we are like having this kind of problems, then we know where to go. We know how to solve the problems. But same goes with the university. Some of us are addicted to easy courses. Tak payahlah jadi doktor, tak payahlah jadi engineer. Ambil je lah kursus yang dah dapat degree sudah. So, I seriously think that there's a structural issue that needs to be addressed in the university, and the universities need to address the structural issue of the country. And it's another day.
Sesi seterusnya tu, Prof. Sufian ya. Okey, saya buka pada tuan-tuan dan puan-puan. Kita ada bagi masa setengah jam untuk Q&A. Silakan, Doktor.
Terima kasih. Saya Intan daripada area Jakarta. Saya ada 2 poin. Satu poin menjawab daripada Profesor Syarin, ya? Ya,
Syarin, Dr. Syarin.
Dr. Syarin. Saya melihat ini sebenarnya bukan red herring sebenarnya. Sebenarnya kalau kita melihat sebenarnya it is in the furtherance of the Trump's mission of dematerialism agenda when he first had it in 2017 to 2021. So ini adalah merupakan satu niat jahat yang untuk debunk WTO. Sebab sekarang ni dia membuat setiap orang merayu di pintu US untuk mendapatkan treatment yang lebih baik. Jadi apa guna WTO sekarang kalau dah tak boleh menangani masalah ni? So this is an ideological shift from liberal internationalism to national unilateralism. So that is my answer basically in terms of that. It's not a red herring. Itu satu position kita tahu konsisten dari dulu. Memang dia nak buatkan kita dibangkan WTO. That's one. And second thing, saya rasa Malaysia tak perlu gopoh. Malaysia has a very strong position. We have, I think the Prime Minister and the Minister has a very good understanding in terms of what needs to be done. And that is actually to work on the 12 point of concern. And what thing I see, ya betul, you nampak Lawrence Wong bercakap, you nampak Cambodia, Laos sudah hantar surat ya pada Trump. Saya tak tahulah kalau dah baca surat tu isi dia merayu-rayu tentang kita akan dengar apa je, kita akan ikut apa aja. Tidak. Sepatutnya sebab Malaysia sekarang ini patut kumpulkan, let's work a collective action to address this and see how best you can actually work on a point of strength. Look at Ursula, the President Ursula, the EU President. We are talking from the position of strength. You have the WTO securities exception, you have the WTO general exceptions to work from in order to actually even charge the US for doing this, for blatantly defaulting in a way. So tak payah risau. Saya rasa kita dah ada Geoeconomic Task Force yang sedang duduk sekarang ni tanpa kita sedari, yang sedang memikirkan perkara-perkara ini. InsyaAllah, let's talk this. Of course, kita pantau, tapi jangan terlalu gopoh-gopoh dan lihat apa yang patut kita lakukan untuk memperbaikikan Malaysia. And then we work on the point of strength. Maknanya dari segi macam, katakan tadi, Tan Sri was saying that let's restructure ourselves. Let's see what are the things that we have been missing, which actually bites us from the back. Itu saja.
Thank you, Dok. Saya kumpul satu lagi soalan sebelum minta ahli panel respon. Silakan. Di belakang tu. Sila ke mikrofon depan. Ya. Ya.
Assalamualaikum. Saya Tarmizi, pelajar IKMAS. Saya nak tanya, okey, baru ni kalau kita tengok terutamanya dekat sosial media lah, respon orang mengharapkan bahawasanya Malaysia bergerak bersama-sama dengan ASEAN, terutamanya bila kita sebagai chairmanship untuk ASEAN pada tahun ni lah. Cumanya saya nak tanya, seperti yang kita tahu, inter-ASEAN pun dia punya perdagangan pun tak berapa banyak, terutamanya Malaysia. Dan begitu juga dengan kita punya konteks berkenaan dengan ingin menjadi sebuah single market lah di peringkat ASEAN. Saya nak tanya, adakah dengan bersama ASEAN kita akan mampu untuk negosiasi dengan US secara berkesan? Itu yang pertama. Dan adakah, kalau saya nak ambil juga apa yang doktor sebut tadi, adakah kita perlu juga bersama dengan negara selain daripada ASEAN, contoh kita cari negara-negara lain untuk bersama-sama untuk bernegosiasi dengan US untuk berbincang berkenaan perkara ni? Sebab saya rasa ini adalah perkara yang penting. Dan juga saya rasa soalan saya yang terakhir juga, adakah dengan isu yang berlaku sekarang ni akan menjadi katalis kepada ASEAN untuk improvise mereka punya inter-ASEAN punya trade, terutamanya dari segi mereka punya mobility dan sebagainya. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Dok. Silakan. Satu lagi. Kita minta, Tan Sri minta satu lagi sebelum kita respon. Ada? Silakan, Tuan.
Assalamualaikum, Tan Sri and esteemed guests. Saya bukan ekonomis, saya industry player. Moving forward, the next 1 to 1.5 years, what is to be expected of the economy of Malaysia and how industry can actually survive and even thrive? Thank you.
Thank you. Menarik. Ya, silakan Prof. Sufian.
Okay, thank you for the comment and the question about ASEAN. As we speak, last night Prabowo came for dinner. PM spoke with Tolam and some other leaders. So I think Malaysia is taking the leadership role expected of the chair. In fact, if we look into ASEAN, the role of ASEAN, we want to be a single production base, but we are not a single market. And we do not have the competence like the European Union, where the European Union, the EU Commission in Brussels, have the right under the treaty to negotiate on behalf of all the 27 EU countries. So ASEAN doesn't work like that. So each and individual ASEAN member state will have the right to address their own trade and investment issue. However, tomorrow there will be the ASEAN Finance Ministers meeting, which has been scheduled way before, but one of the agenda will be this particular issue. And then there will be an emergency ASEAN Economic Ministers meeting on the 10th. There will be one, I'm sure, one of the, among other discussion on how to respond to this. And the way we think, like I mentioned earlier, ASEAN needs to have a relook into the ASEAN 2045. Because at the moment, we are building the ASEAN vision on ASEAN 2045, which is like 20 years to go. It's very difficult to plan. Earlier, we proposed for ASEAN 2035. But however, somehow or other, it got into 20 years. So I think Malaysia needs to play that kind of leadership role to change the way we plan. So, because individual member state has its own right to negotiate. So we need to work collectively, okay? What are the areas that we can go together? So maybe we can get closer to the EU style. It's not a treaty, but get closer. Because if you go with 10, you are stronger than going with 1. They can bully you, divide and rule. But, so that's one suggestion. It's not, we still have the time, because the chairmanship ends sometime in November this year, and then maybe they can, instead of approving the strategic plan and the vision in May, they can put it next to the next summit, which is in November. So we still have time. And so I think that's ASEAN. We will be able to work together. There will be a joint consensus. There will be committee. There will be task force created under ASEAN. I cannot share the detail. I'm just giving you what they have in mind at the moment. I was in MITI this morning. So, all right. So that's what. But I think looking into the future, we still have one more war which has not been discussed at all. But we have discussed this in one of our ASEAN meeting last week before Hari Raya, which is the tax war. This will be another war, because at the moment Malaysia and 7 ASEAN member states have adopted the global minimum tax, which is we are pushing for 15% minimum tax on all multinational having 750 million revenue euros and above. However, the US is not a party. So we are expecting, because Trump has issued an executive order that they were going to retaliate against anyone that imposed higher tax on American companies. And why I'm bringing this? Because if we want to look into the investment policy, if we want to restructure the economy, we have to take into account all these international treaties that we sign. And one of them is the global minimum tax, whereas the US global tax to their multinationals is about 13% at the moment. So if you impose 15%, minimum, for us is minimum, but for them it has to be lower. Then they will retaliate on that particular point. So in doing the restructuring, we have to go into a massive knowledge collection, a massive amount of information. And I think we really have to look into data, all these issues. One of the angle which I think we need to look into is services. We are working at the moment with MITI, ICMAS, on the manufacturing-related services, which require a lot more talents, and Malaysia has surplus on goods-related and manufacturing-related, like in aviation, MRO, and all the stuff. And then we need to build new coalition beyond ASEAN together with others. So we have messages coming from the UK, from Switzerland. In fact, on this Thursday, on the 10th, ICMAS together with the Malaysian Embassy in Bern, with the Swiss government, we are having a semiconductor diplomacy workshop in Switzerland, run by ICMAS with the Malaysian Embassy, on how to look into opportunities for Malaysian semiconductor industry outside the country. So we do something. We UKM are doing something to help the country.
Hebat, Prof. Okay, Dr. Sharin, silakan.
Terima kasih. ASEAN, in my personal view, okay, ASEAN is a good story. ASEAN is a good idea. ASEAN is important, but the reality, ASEAN, there's a lot more challenges still. That's my honest take. Okay, moving forward, institution like ASEAN, I think, will become more and more important in a polarized world where the major superpower try to dictate things. So size matters. So you need to leverage on institution like ASEAN in order to get your voice heard. But having said all of that, okay, to me the challenge is within ASEAN, because kita cakap pasal tarif and whatnot, but the non-tariff barrier in ASEAN is still quite massive. It's a huge, kita cakap pasal halal certification alone across ASEAN countries is a challenge. So again, to me, ASEAN needs to have some honesty to really overtake all these problems, all these challenges, I would say, rather than problem. Okay, the challenges. They have to address this. If we don't address this, it's hard for ASEAN to come together to be able to talk as a single voice. That's my honest opinion on ASEAN. There's a lot of challenges that needs to be tackled, but will it be happening anytime soon? I reserve my optimistic view on that one. I'm rather cautious, and I hope for the better. But I think from a business angle, you asked about how business move forward in the future and whatnot. I'm cautiously optimistic. I would want to be there. I would want to work with ASEAN, but at the same time, I cannot put all my egg in one basket. I need to look beyond ASEAN as well. What is the future for businesses? I think globalization, whether Trump is going to do, or whether America is going to do more protectionist or whatnot, I think technology is another dimension in this whole global economic trends. Okay, so while kalau dulu tak ada teknologi, tak ada internet, you can just cut off everything and you can be isolated. But nowadays, I don't think that's possible anymore. The genie is out of the bottle. You cannot put it back in. They will find avenues to communicate. So technology will push, will make information available to more people beyond your borders. So what is border become now very loose interpretation. Systems like, for example, Facebook aja ada 2 billion user, which is the single biggest country in the world if it is a country. So how do you, there's a lot of those changes that's happening. There are a lot of factors, mega trends that are changing the world as we live today. Okay, technology is being one of them. There's so many mega trends. There are AI, there are computers, information, biotechnology. People are now doing all kinds of amazing things on technology. Nowadays, people, for example, kita cakap dunia telco, for example, fixed lines is currently the thing. But now low orbit satellite, China is putting thousands of them up in the sky. The world is going to be so connected. Industry needs to keep pace with all this technological to survive, to even be relevant. Okay, you cannot be doing. Ultimately, it's the value proposition that you bring needs to be very clear, and of course, the changes in consumer demand is something that you got to be really, have your eyeballs, to see what is needed. If you lose that, the trend, demographic is changing. The younger generation interest is very different than us, the baby boomers. All of that will dictate who is going to survive moving in the future, in my view. Thank you.
Dr. Sharin. Okay. Prof, silakan, Tan Sri.
Okay. Saya on ASEAN ni short lah. Kebetulan saya beberapa bulan lepas saya ada buat satu bentangan berkenaan dengan ASEAN ni. Just to give you all some ideas lah. Keluasan ASEAN land size dia lebih kurang sama dengan EU. Population, we are larger than EU. Kita 680, dekat-dekat 700 juta. EU hanya lebih kurang dalam 450 juta begitu. But when physical land, orang kita ramai, but when they come to economy, kita rendah. Jadi terbalik, the other side. EU is bigger in terms of GDP, EU is bigger in terms of higher in terms of per capita, export sebagainya. Satu yang saya agak cenderung dengan Dr. Sharin, saya tahulah kita ASEAN ni because we happen to be in this region, jadi semangat tu kena tinggi. Tapi kita kena faham siapa di ASEAN ni. Negara yang per capita paling tinggi ASEAN, Singapura, dia punya per capita dia 65,000. Yang paling rendah Myanmar 1,000 lebih aja. Jadi saya selalu membayangkan begini kan, you get a rich person, a millionaire, and a beggar yang miskin, yang paling rumah, boleh tak you dua-dua ni pergi masuk dalam satu bilik bincang nak pergi makan mana? Saya rasa almost difficult lah. The challenges that we are facing, the ladder of development dia begitu. Singapore is up there, competitiveness semua top 5 in the world, atas tu. Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia dekat tengah. Yang CLMB tu Vietnam atas sikit bawah. Jadi ada 3 grup. Saya kata kadang-kadang orang kata ada apple and oranges. We have apple, oranges and mangosteen kot satu lagi. Kan? Jadi kita ada 3 kelompok yang besar dan masing-masing berada di ladder yang tahap yang berbeza dan priority yang berbeza. You want to talk about AI dekat Myanmar? Forget about it. Dia nak makan pun tak cukup lagi. You want to talk about subjek yang kita berbincang di sini, mungkin subjek itu not relevant to them. They are still discussing subject that we discussed in the 70s and 80s. Jadi dekat situ saya nampak ada masalah. Dan setiap kali saya terlibat dengan ASEAN, dengan Jakarta, pergi ke sana dan sebagainya, saya selalu dia benda ni. Because kadang-kadang saya tengok perbincangan tu tambah menerangkan ni, I feel like there are a lot of Japanese there were talking about something yang very high end. I dah tengok muka-muka kawan-kawan daripada Myanmar, daripada Vietnam, Laos ni tenganga, tengok apa benda lah korang cakap ni. You know, I mean, everyone have been there. You know what the situation out there, right? Indonesia, yes, they are rich. The size is bigger. You know, 35% of ASEAN GDP coming from Indonesia, but per capita is low. And Indonesia pula dia ada strata yang sangat tersebar kan. Jadi depend who you talk to lah. Some of them, I went to one of my friends in Jakarta. Wow, dia duduk dalam palace. Belajar sama dia dulu. Tapi pergi di other side, bukan palace. Rumah pun tak ada tentu orang kan. Jadi dia punya, sebab penduduk dia ramai. Jadi boleh. Tapi minta maaf, saya tak pasti. Kalau ada kawan-kawan, mungkin Profesor Pian dan saya tahu. Saya pernah dengar one of our diplomat. I will not mention the name. But high rank diplomat. Dia tanya dalam satu session begini. Dia tanya, kenapa ASEAN tidak ada seat dekat UN? Is it right? Can someone verse ni? Tak ada. Dia jawapan dia kalau betul lah, dia kata because ASEAN actually cannot come together. Jadi siapa nak vote dekat situ? Hantar Singapura dia vote cara dia, kalau hantar Malaysia dia vote macam, kalau hantar Myanmar nanti dia vote benda lain pula ni. Jadi therefore we don't have a seat. Itu joke lah mungkin, tapi dia cuba membayangkan bahawa keserabutan dalam ASEAN itu. Okey lah, gambar pegang-pegang baru tu nak teruskan lah. Saya pun dah banyak kali dah ambil gambar macam tu. Tapi, feel like macam, there are three groups lah. Jadi ASEAN ni boleh cuba-cubalah. Tapi whatever it is, agak malang lah. Kalau you tengok kali ni, kalau you susun mengikut region, kebetulan, Profesor Pian, is ASEAN actually the one that badly hit by American. I don't know, for whatever reason lah. The future. Saudara Arifin from Wasiah Shop tanya, Malaysia ni kita tengoklah semua dokumen. Saya pun banyak, kita semua banyak terlibat. Kalau baca dokumen tu, kita dah sampai ke bulan dah. Kalau dokumen lah, what stated in the document. People yang terlibat dalam perancangan, dalam writing dokumen government, kita dah habis idea dah nak tulis apa. I think banyak ni yang buat consulting work, Datuk Ghazali was KSU dulu, dan sama-sama ke EPU dulu. Kita dah, banyak benda kita dah sebut dah bertahun-tahun dah. Sebut dan sebut, cuma ubah-ubah bahasa. Sekarang the latest untuk pengetahuan semua yang saya dengar lah, kalau saya salah minta maaf, ada bold and radical to come. Ada bold, dia kata apa? Macam bold and radical. Katanya rancangan Malaysia ke-13, temanya bold and radical. Jadi kita sama-sama perhatilah how bold and how radical we going to be. Mungkin Minda boleh aturkan siri bold and radical round table. So that kita tengok education bold, musnahkan semua ini dan sebagainya. Ganti lain. Industri bold, radical. Jadi nak tengoklah. Dan saya rasa kita ni negara, alhamdulillah, kita kena bersyukur sebab negara kita negara yang bagi saya, you like it or not, is negara yang hidup agak selesa lah. Kecuali kalau you really at the low end tu memang very very painful. Tetapi kita berhadapan dengan cabaran. Dan saya rasa kalau kita tidak membuat keputusan yang betul, kalau kita nak berterusan begini, I think we will soon be country yang tertinggal. Kata, oh dulu bagus. Do you know that Myanmar was one of the greatest Asia nations? Negara Asia tau. Myanmar ni. Satu masa dulu dia sebelum dia jadi kalang kabut ni tahun 40-an dia Asia antara yang terbaik di Asia. Tengok bila keputusan negara itu tidak betul dan akhirnya dia terjerumus dalam kancah kemiskinan dan sebagainya. Jadi kita harap kita pun tidak begitu. Dan saya setujulah. Dan saya ucap terima kasih kepada semua yang hadir. Kami, you all sebenarnya berada dalam bilik agung di UKM ni. Ini bilik paling keramat lah di UKM ni. You know, dan bilik ni lah yang setidaknya yang kami berbincang menentu masa depan sebagainya. Saya Ikhmas, saya tengok ada Institut Hadari di situ. Ada banyak lagi lah rakan-rakan daripada fakulti dan pelbagai institut yang ada. Let us, paling tidak kami di universiti, kenapa saya nak buat hari ini juga? Kami berbincang, saya dengan pimpinan, kita we cannot wait. Jangan nanti dah 2 bulan barulah nak buat seminar, baru nak susun. Sebab kadang-kadang bila kita buat majlis-majlis ni, kita fikir jamuan makan lah, kita fikir kad jemputan lah, tagging nama lah, wasting time. You know, simple. No, WhatsApp jalan. Alhamdulillah, saya ucap terima kasih lah. And thank you to you as well. Dan janganlah spoil mood akhir raya kan. Jadi teruskanlah berhari raya insyaAllah. Dan saya ucapkan banyak terima kasih Tuan Jalaluddin, Prof, semua ada sini. And thank you very much for everyone here. Let us do the best. Saya dah bagi tahu juga beberapa menteri, saya kata allow us dekat university academic to be more critical of the nation. We love the nation as much as everyone else. Jadi allow us to be critical dan but of course we are constructive about bagaimana nak membawa negara terus maju ke depan. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Profesor Tan Sri Datuk Seri Dr. Noazlan Ghazali. Terima kasih kepada ketiga-tiga ahli panel, Dr. Syarin dan juga Prof. Dr. Sufian Yusof. Kita beri tepukan paling gemuruh pada ahli-ahli panel kita pada petang ni. Bicara Persada Tarif Trump. Dan terima kasih juga kepada tuan-tuan, walaupun hari ini hari pertama kerja lepas raya memang berat sikit nak datang, tapi Alhamdulillah penuh. Kita beri tepukan pada anda semua yang hadir dan juga di atas talian melalui Facebook UKM pun saya lihat ramai memberi komen. Dan Prof. Tan Sri Noazlan dan rakan-rakan Minda mengambil langkah proaktif, langkah yang cukup signifikan dalam situasi kita beraya. Tetapi
Tuan Haji Jason juga nak mention because saya terlupa sebut, actually this event is jointly organised Minda, Ikhmas dan Fakulti Ekonomi. Dekan Prof. Mazdan di situ. Thank you very much to the director and the dean. Thank you.
Terima kasih ketiga penganjur kita pada petang ini. Jadi saya Nazri Kahar mewakili penganjur. Jika ada terkurang ataupun tersalah bahasa, saya mohon ampun. InsyaAllah jika ada kelapangan kita jumpa lagi. Assalamualaikum. Terima kasih.
Waalaikumsalam.
Terima kasih diucapkan kepada Tuan Moderator kita pada hari ini di atas mengemudi sesi bicara pada petang ini. Alhamdulillah, bagi pihak majlis saya merakamkan setinggi-tinggi penghargaan dan ribuan terima kasih kepada semua panelis yang sudi hadir dan turut menjayakan program pada petang ini. Okay. Dengan itu, sebagai tanda penghargaan daripada pihak Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia, majlis menjemput Yang Berusaha Dr. Anwar Ahmad, Timbalan Pengarah Minda UKM untuk menyampaikan ceremata tanda kalbu kepada panelis dan moderator kita. Dijemput yang berbahagia Profesor Tan Sri Datuk Seri Dr. Noazlan Ghazali, Pengarah Minda UKM. Seterusnya, Yang Berusaha Insinyur Dr. Muhammad Syahrin Madris, Fellow Bersekutu Minda UKM dan Profesor Ejang, Graduate School of Business. Dan tak dilupakan juga dijemput moderator kita pada hari ini. Dijemput Yang Berusaha Profesor Dr. Sufian Yusof, Pengarah Institut Kajian Malaysia dan Antarabangsa Ikhmas. Seterusnya, tak dilupakan dijemput moderator pada hari ini iaitu Tuan Haji Nazri Kahar untuk menerima cenderamata. Dijemput semua ahli panelis dan moderator untuk sesi bergambar. Dijemput untuk kita sesi bergambar bersama. Dijemput juga untuk para hadirin untuk kita sesi bergambar bersama-sama. dijemput ke ruang hadapan Dewan. Dijemput hadirin di belakang untuk sesi bergambar bersama moderator dan panelis kita pada hari ini.
Apa juga tempat yang tak ada kena-mengena tu kat situ, diusik situ. Ini pipeline tau, gas.